How is everybody? My name is Angie Murenga and you're watching Just Angie. Today, I want to talk about inviting God to the wedding day and not the marriage. And just like, what's up with that? You know, it's so, I've been looking at it, reflecting on it, it's so wrong. You know, I'm just observing people. And also I did that. And so therefore, I think now I can speak because I did. And it's something that we need to stop doing, because I every time I do a marriage video, it gets a lot of reaction, a lot of people watching it. So there's something out there about marriage. And even I'll start by saying, you know, just recently I was asked to speak at Sumi Mwai's event on marriage. She has something called the Queen's Glamour Fest. And it was really amazing. And I love the way that the whole conversation went. But I feel that that was a seed for something even greater. And then something amazing happened when I went to, there'll be a Women Without Limits show coming up with Reverend Kathy Kuna, who I honor and respect. And she asked me to come, and we're going to speak about leadership and purpose and coaching. But when I got on the set, the whole conversation went south. I mean, it went the way God wanted it to go, and it just went into marriage. So there's something about marriage, and then also the realization that God is speaking a lot about revival, and with revival comes reformation. And this we're learning even through Cindy Jacobs, and we're even doing books. We're doing a book study with apostolic and prophetic intercessors on reformation, because if you have revival, you have to have reformation. That's what makes the revival outlast and outlive you, is by putting structured systems into the revival. So I'm feeling like in terms of reformation, when you look at what breaks down a society, it's family. When you break down families, then society gets really broken down and gets really into hurtful places, you know. And therefore, because we're, even as a nation in Kenya, we're in a season of rebuilding, according to Nehemiah. There's something about the spirit of Nehemiah, the spirit of rebuilding, and that whole story. When we're rebuilding the very fabric of society, we have to start with rebuilding family, rebuilding marriages, rebuilding our relationship with our children. So I'm going to be talking a lot about marriage. So I wanted to ask, you know, and have a conversation about why do we, before marriage, do what we want, you know, and we're Christians, and we say we're Christians, and so we're sleeping with each other, we're engaging in what God calls fornication, you know, call it what he calls it fornication, and we're engaging in an activity that God created for the context of marriage. Apart from that, anyway, God is not there. You know, we're making our plans, we are deciding what we want. No, God is not in it. We've never invited him into it. We haven't prayed about it. We have not even said, is this really true? We don't even have a revelation. Is this the person I'm supposed to marry? It's all about love. And I think Tina Turner's sang, what has love got to do with it? Honestly, in marriage, love is there, yes, but it's so last. You know, even there's a day I was doing a video on looking at 2 Peter and looking at the things that God was saying that we need to build. We have to have an increasing measure of love was last. You know, at least he's helping my someone. Listen, yes, love will hold you together, but it can't be all that holds you together. There has to be other things before love. There has to be, are we compatible? Where do we contrast? Have we had a discussion about what does this marriage stand for? What's the vision of this marriage? What's the purpose of this marriage? You know, have we had deep discussions, or is it just starry-eyed love, looking at each other's eyes and love, and then, hey, that can be it. And therefore, before marriage, there is no God. You know, we haven't involved God before marriage. And we don't involve him after the marriage. But the worst thing that we do is on the wedding day, which I said first of all, you should be wearing black or red, not even white, you know, because white was supposed to represent purity. And we all know, question mark on the purity. Okay, God is saying be fair. Some of you need to wear blush pink. Okay, yeah, but not white. Anyway, so on the wedding day, we put on our white dresses and our suits, and we look our best, and then we go to church and we invite God to that day. So that day we want God to be glorified and for him to be known, and we are Christians and we're in church. Why do we do that? You know, you wouldn't do that to your own best friend, would you? And even as a best friend, would you attend? Can you imagine if your friend has ignored you? Let's take the context of marriage. They are planning their wedding, they've completely ignored you, have not involved you, have not spoken to you. Then they just tell you, come to the wedding day. Just come. This is your invite, you come. No before, no after. Even you as a friend, you won't come. But by God's grace, because I think we've shown him dust till he just says, okay, these are my children. And he comes. He actually graces the wedding day. And that's all we want. But what I want us to do is to stop being two-faced and stop. I mean, I was even telling people, okay, jokingly, but I'm also going to make the statement. If the bar is where you met and the club is where you hang out, go get married in the club. Get married in the club and the bar. That's where you should get married. That is where the wedding ceremony should take place. Stop inviting God to something which he has not endorsed. He probably has not even been consulted on. It's hard. Even our own parents want to consult them. We want to know, if we come from that school of thought, how many buses are coming from Shags. We want to give them invitations. Who are you going to invite? I mean, we're having conversation with our parents, but we're missing the most important conversation. That's the conversation with God. Have you sat and prayed with this your husband-to-be? Are you on the same page? Spiritually, are you on the same page? Because we say, okay, not only spiritually, man is made up of different aspects. Are you on the same page solically? That's the mind, the will, emotions. Are you on the same page physically, socially, financially, governmentally? That's leadership of self, leadership of others. Who is leading who? Is he leading you? Are you the one leading? Please, put things in order. Have you had a conversation? Have you had a conversation? And let's reflect on, I think what I want us to do is reflect on, why do we invite God only to the wedding day? Why are you doing that? I almost feel like saying, be true to yourself. If you don't believe in God, you don't know God, you don't love God, you don't know what to do with God, then be true. Be consistent. Consistently flow with that. But I don't believe in God, I don't believe that's the God of my parents. There's a long story. I don't care. God doesn't really exist. Yeah, okay, then get married wherever. But don't say, God, now come. And then, sometimes even we don't go to church. Now you want to invite the pastor. Go to Sharia house. Go to Sharia house. Do it the legal way by law, and let's move on. But stop asking God to come to things that it's like you just want him to come there, endorse this marriage, and then step away. I mean, think through it. What are you doing? What are you saying? Do you know God? Do you love him? Do you submit to him? Is that why you've come to church? Or you're just going with the flow? It's just what people do. So even us, we're going with the flow. And I think if you're in a place where you're about to get married, please just reflect, pray, think about it, talk to your partner about it, And then I think the most important thing for me would be, if we're at that stage and we can correct this, then invite him to the marriage. If even you've been married for a certain amount of time, invite him to the marriage, I like telling people, every time God tells me, when you see a problem, take 10 steps backwards. Look at the problem from here, view it over there, and how do we make this right? And that's the best thing with God. You can make it right. You can make it right if you're getting married now. You can make it right if you're already married. Some of us will be given a chance to make it right in the future, but make it right. And let's, examine and interrogate the reason why we do things. Don't just do them to do them. Do you really understand what it is? Because I was trying to explain, actually that's how we came to that point. I was trying to explain to people the covenant of marriage and how strong the covenant of marriage is, and that God, imagine, in all his glory, he decides, okay, this is the only day that I'm here, but because they've called me here, imagine now there's a flip side, he actually honors. And it's a binding covenant, which then brings me to the point, then how can you just walk out of a covenant? You can't just walk out of a covenant. It's a covenant. And you didn't make a covenant. It's not a contract that you signed a document. You made a covenant with God. You vowed before him to be married. So it's very hard to break a covenant. It's difficult, it's emotional, it's draining, it's spiritual. It's not just easy, Some of us have walked away from our marriages and we think it's easy, but it's not. For me, I know it was a mistake. I know now I shouldn't have ever done that. And then God, by his grace, will fix it in whichever way he wants to fix it. Either he will restore that marriage or he will bring me into another one. But he's taught me sufficiently. There are many lessons that he's taught me that I would never, ever, ever, ever enter into marriage, that marriage covenant lightly. I can't. It's a covenant. It's something that's very important. And I was explaining how it took me days. I think maybe I should just share that context of how even after a certain period of time, I would think I've healed, and then something would happen and I would be like, wow. Like I remember one day, I think this is the story I shared. that time, I think Mavuno Church used to have services on a Saturday, and they had called in the week and said they wanted to do a video with the women who had gone through divorce, and they wanted to air that video as part of the service. It must have been a sermon series. And I said, okay, but I couldn't record because I was teaching, I think, PLF that day. And therefore, I just came to attend the service. And there was a pull in my spirit, and that's why I've always learned to do to flow with what God is telling me. So that day I was in a pull. Should I go to church on Saturday? And you see, we go to church on Saturday, so on Sunday we can rest. And at least we went to church, so they used to have the Saturday service. So anyway, I had a long shout with myself. Then I just thought, let me just go. So I went. So and as I come into the church, somebody comes running up to me. Oh, Pastor Angie, I think Pastor Kiama is asking if you'll come up on stage and do an interview on marriage. I said, but what happened to the video? They said, oh, the videos refused to work. I said, oh, okay. Then I said, but there's something I must say. I'll only share if there's something I must say. And he laughed. And because by that time when Pastor Kiama had come, he laughed and he said, what? I said, why are you laughing? He said, because Pastor Murenga, I like Pastor Murenga. Pastor Murenga Wanjao knows me. He said that your pastor said that she's going to say, she wants to say something at the end. And therefore, as we had the interview, what I wanted to say at the end is, I don't believe in divorce. And I don't think divorce is an option. Unless there's battery, violence, not because of feelings. Feelings can be fixed. And I know some people are going to be very mad with me. It's okay. Feelings can be fixed. Remember, marriage is about seasons, like everything in life. The season will pass. You can ride out the season. You can weather the storm. Yeah, you don't say, I'm going to run away from this storm. You weather the storm and you get through the storm. And you get through it and you see the bigger picture and what this marriage was about and why you came together. And not just small things and you're off. No. Unless your life is in danger, no. And even the life in danger, we can separate for some time, fix whatever the danger is, and then bring back the people together. Anyway, back to my story. So I said, I will only share if you let me say at the end that I don't believe it's a divorce. He said, that's exactly what your pastor said, so let's go. And so I went and I can't remember what I said. And then it just sparked a lot of cries. So I'm giving this interview. I'm very fine when I'm on stage. And I say I don't believe in divorce and people need to be reconciled and work for their marriages. When I get off the stage and I get into my car, I cry all the way. And this was after quite a number of years. So I was like, hey, I thought I healed, because I've been through this process of healing, of praying. That's what that, and then God would minister to me and tell me this is the problem with covenant, Pastor Angie. Covenant is strong. It's a covenant. It's a very spiritual connection. So even for those who have not made the decision to get married, please don't think about it like that's why I'm sharing this. So I cried all the way home, cried the whole night. Sunday back, God is amazing. Looking good, sitting on stage, no tear in sight. Share again, and there were 2 services. Go home, cry again. Hey, I was like, what's going on? And then I think the one I want to share that really now showed me, hey, this marriage thing is not a joke. I think that was after 10 years. And for some reason, we went home to my ex's home. And then we were coming back. I think it was a funeral. And God is so gracious because Althea fell asleep. And I drove and I cried from my car to Nairobi. I mean, what? Then I proceeded to continue crying the whole night. Actually, it's my friend Zippy. I think God must have told her, pray for Pastor Angie or call her. And it is Psalm 23 that calmed me down. Ask me why I'm crying. If you ask me why I'm crying, I don't know I'm crying. I wept. But when I look at it now, I was weeping because this is a covenant. We broke the covenant. We shouldn't have broken the covenant. This was not right. And just something welled up in me. It was like, it was uncontrollable. It's not like I could control it. But in all these circumstances, even as I prayed and prayed through them, I think even, it's so funny, I remember even praying with a pastor from Nakuru that my friend Naomi, I think, called. And that man talked about covenant. I couldn't hear him, but I can hear in the back of my spirit. He was talking about covenant. Marriage is a covenant, yeah? So first, let's try not to, be advised. Your advice can be taken or not taken. Be advised not to just do your own thing before the wedding, live outside the will of God, then invite God to the wedding. Then after you leave church, see you with God, now we are on our own. Then live also after the marriage without Him, And then sometimes, God forbid, what happens, a problem appears, now that's when you start looking for God. It's really sad, It's so sad. Don't be like that. Don't use God. Seek to have a relationship with Him. Seek to love Him. Take baby steps, even in this knowing Him. Take baby steps. And if you're going to have a church wedding, or you're going to be married by a pastor, think through it, pray through it, take premarital counseling seriously. You cannot do premarital counseling at the same time as you're planning a wedding. We say it and we'll keep saying it over and over again. It's not possible. If you're going to decide you're having an engagement of 1 year, which I know that's not straight from nowadays, I don't believe in long drawn out engagements, then do the premarital counseling separate from the planning of the wedding. And I think when Maxi and Wedera were here, we discussed something else. After 1 year, do PMCC again. After 5 years, do again. After 7 years, after 10 years, after 12 years. And then go for these marriage retreats that churches have, I find it crazy that you want to invest, let's say, 100,000 in flowers, but you don't want to invest 60,000 in a marriage retreat. Forget the flowers. What you need is the marriage retreat. That is the one that's going to build your marriage. The flowers will be there left, taking them all of us away. Invest in the real things, the things that you need. So whether it's, we're calling it a PMC, which is premarital counseling or Christian counseling, but then go for something that's going to enrich your marriage. It needs help. It needs guidance. It does. It needs work. I heard people say marriage is work. It needs work. So you've got to invest in it. Anyway, so the genesis of my video was, if you're going to wear a white dress, invite the pastor, go to a church, then invest in the spiritual relationship that you need with Jesus Christ as well. And also invest in the spiritual relationship of Christ. Invite him fully into your home, into your marriage, before, on the wedding day, and after. Let him be part of your life and part of that marriage and part of that covenant. And I think the second takeout from this video should be that marriage is a covenant, not to be taken lightly, not a covenant with yourself, a covenant with God. It wasn't a covenant with yourself, it was a covenant with God. You made a covenant, you made a vow. So think through those vows, think through that covenant, and don't just break covenants everywhere you go. It reminds me of Coach Carter. As we train you here at PLF, we usually watch a movie called Coach Carter. And I remember one of the lessons that Coach Carter wanted to teach them is that once you sign a contract, you don't just run out of the contract. They had to wear suits, they had to sit in front of class, they had to pass their exams. They stopped calling each other by derogatory names. They signed a contract. So in marriage, you signed a contract. Don't just want to walk away from the contract because you're upset or because somebody else did this. It's a covenant. It's even greater than a contract. So take that seriously. Have a intentional and very deliberate week and focus even towards God and the things of God, and especially if you're getting married. God bless you. My name is Angie Murenga, and you're watching Just Angie. Bye.